Too Belongs by Carrie Kopnick. The sound of rain, not cheerful songs. The quiet rocking chair, not traditions of the season. The early sunset, not dancing lights. Loss, tender heart, hollow soul, heavy days. Grief is welcome, a sacred part of the mourning, of the bereft, of the weeping. Amidst the celebrating, this too belongs. This too is holy. It binds us to our ancestors, the earth, the stars. Yet still, a steaming mug of tea warms the belly. The dog wags its tail and the cat purrs. There are laughter and tears, sometimes both, beside the joy. This too belongs. Sharing human suffering is connection. Hearts like stones are held by all that is. Grief and light intertwined. This too belongs. And the second from Rebecca Parker, this is Winter Solstice. Perhaps for a moment the typewriters will stop clicking, the wheels stop rolling, the computers desist computing, and a hush will fall over the city. For an instant, in the stillness, the chiming of the celestial spheres will be heard as Earth hangs poised in the crystalline darkness, and then gracefully tilts. Let there be a season when holiness is heard and the splendor of living is revealed. Stunned to stillness by beauty, we remember who we are and why we are here. There are inexplicable mysteries. We are not alone. In the universe, there moves a wild one whose gestures alter Earth's axis toward love. In the immense darkness, everything spins with joy. The cosmos enfolds us. We are caught in a web of stars, cradled in a swaying embrace, rocked by the holy night, babes of the universe. Let this be the time we wake to life, like spring wakes in the moment of winter solstice. As a child, usually when the weather was cold and the light was less, I would sometimes make these blanket nests on the floor in my room. This mostly happened only during times of distress or when I felt like I needed to be surrounded by great comfort. I would grab up all the blankets and comforters and make a kind of pile with them and burrow inside. After the first time, when I quickly got too hot, I learned to make a small hole at one end where my head was to keep the air moving and allow some cooler air to enter. Often then I would sleep or just snuggle into the warmth and disconnection from the rest of the world. It's been a long time since the last time I did this, and I'm sure that my back appreciates that. But the instinct to hide away from the world, snuggled in a safe and comfy space, is one that I still have, especially in the winter when the light is less. Maybe like me, you've just been feeling a deep need to rest, to nap, to sleep more than usual, or just to disconnect from the outside world, which lately seems very scary. With 2 nights ago being the longest night of the year, the winter solstice, I expect at least some of us might be feeling such a longing, even amidst all the holiday things going on. Or maybe because of all of the holiday things going on. Sometimes we just need to rest. Our bodies, our hearts, our minds, our spirits, or maybe all of them. Our broken hearts bring a lethargy that cannot be glossed over. As war continues to devastate the world, as the climate crisis worsens, as our political climate becomes increasingly hostile, for those of us who are sensitive to distractions, overwhelmed by the news and social media, affected by the lessening of the light, It helps to take some time and let go. Set the chaos aside. Forget the tragedy in the world for just a moment or for as long as you need. I promise it will all still be there when you are ready to engage with it again. Just breathe. I'm not sure when I started appreciating the enveloping comfort of nighttime. I worked second shift for years, having worked in retail in high school, college, grad school, college, and grad school again. I didn't always care for it much then, although the evenings and night times had their own rhythms to appreciate. But also then, before my hypothyroidism started, I would come home from work at midnight and would go running for an hour before bed. As someone raised and encultured as female, I was more than aware of the risks that could come with this, and so I did my best to take care. But there's a quiet and a peace in the world in the nighttime that tugged at me to be present when most people sleep, even in that college town, even living just down the street from the university. Maybe some of it is the miracle of it all, how small we are in the scope of the universe, despite our attempts to make it not seem so. The way everything that doesn't matter so much shrinks in size in comparison, that scale of meaning shifting to simpler values. Van Gogh said, "I know nothing with any certainty, but the sight of the stars makes me dream." Even without the stars, which can be hard to see from cities, being awake in a world during its slumber, when the distractions are few and it feels like mostly just you and the vastness of it all, capital A, is grounding and freeing in ways that are hard to express. I titled this service after Van Gogh's masterpiece, The Starry Night. One of my favorite pieces of art, so much so that not only am I wearing it, I cross-stitched it for more than 10 months last year. While the winter times are full of beauty, they are also full of challenge for many of us. Those of us who have seasonal affective disorder, depression, or other mental illnesses, and the many of us who experienced tender losses, are sensitive to the world, or are just having a rough time. Van Gogh was one of these, and his episode that happened in late December of 1888 and led to the self-mutilation of his left ear that eventually got him to admit himself for care and support in May of 1889. The Starry Night was painted the following month, reminding Van Gogh, and perhaps all of us as well, that darkness, difficulty, beauty, mystery, and wonder can all exist at the same time. Hope is in the stars, he wrote. He remained in that mental institution for a year. Mental institution or asylum is not really an appropriate translation for where he was, though. Spaude Mausoleum had been a monastery before becoming an institution, and it catered to the wealthy. It has been described as a spa, but I would say it was more of a retreat center, which is a more accurate depiction of the place for France during that era. When Van Gogh was there, fewer than half the rooms were occupied, and so he had his own studio separate from his room. Treatment there undoubtedly included abundant time for rest and creativity, and he used that time to heal. Van Gogh produced 143 oil paintings and more than 100 drawings during his stay there. Rest and retreat are good for us in ways that our capitalist society doesn't allow for us to know. The amount of activities that happen in December are mostly for celebration, as a way to gather with loved ones and give thanks, but they also often serve as a way to fend off the darkness and the inward journeying that accompanies it this time of year. We keep busy, we keep distracted sometimes as a way to avoid being confronted with ourselves. Our ancestors would gather in the dark to sit by a fire. Whether sharing stories or songs or staring mindlessly at the way that the flames jump and dance, they were doing more inner work than we might experience at a holiday party with hors d'oeuvres, bustling about hopping from place to place or watching TV. To be clear, these are all wonderful uses of time. They just have different purposes. Winters historically have been a time for social, especially family bonding. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the ways the words dark and darkness have been used to oppress, marginalize, and terrorize Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, people of the global majority in the US and other Euro-American nations and colonies. The equation of darkness and dark with evil deepened racism and was used to justify slavery and continues as a part of the narrative that slaughters our Black and brown siblings and neighbors today. It is in part for this reason that I was recently drawn to a book by English author Catherine May titled Wintering: The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times. As is often the case, changing our language shifts our understanding and often brings us more into alignment with what we are trying to express. That we're turning inward by instinct or design, just the way the seasons ask of us. It gives us the chance to destigmatize the abundance or absence of light and allows us to honor what we're experiencing. Our social expectations are for us to be happy and positive, and if we aren't feeling that way, the marketing is that there is something wrong with us. I have long resisted this commitment to toxic positivity, and as a chaplain would often have to soft sell, or sometimes hard sell, people into feeling however they were feeling without any apologies. In Wintering, May talks about challenging and sad times as times when our lives, like a field, might be fallow, not a time of growth so much as a time of rest. We might feel empty, sad, lonely, rejected, sidelined, fragile, vulnerable, or exposed. Often we may try to resist this, but the more we do, the worse it likely feels. Instead, May encourages us to lean into it, to sit with our feelings, to slow down, to be present, to withdraw from life, from the busyness clamoring at our doors for attention. In so doing, she has noticed in her own life the ways that she becomes more attuned to the natural world and therefore more appreciative of the gifts it offers. This then eases the feelings she's been experiencing, restoring her more to a sense of peace. I love the way that May integrates the natural world into her philosophy of coping with life's difficulties and our sadnesses. This reminds us that whatever we're going through will indeed pass, as well as the fact that it's all part of what is natural to experience. May's inclination when she's experiencing difficulties is to travel north. Living in England, she has traveled at times to Norway and Iceland, among other places. In the cold, she says, things seem clearer. So clear, she spends time talking about growing into a practice of swimming in frigid water and its benefits, which makes me cold just thinking about it. Winter often catches us when we aren't ready. For May, the winter that preceded her book included her husband's appendix rupturing when he was waiting for surgery, her abdominal pain eventually leading to a Crohn's disease diagnosis, and to complete their family trifecta, her young son refusing to go to school. There's no way to prepare ourselves for these things, and no reason to. Of all the possibilities we might experience, we certainly can't plan for them all. Life happens. The particulars are unpredictable, but we can know that winter will come at some point. Nature prepares for the transitions of seasonal cycles, and although we cannot predict ours with the regularity or possible transitioning, we can do two things. Learn from past experiences about what works for us, and welcome the winter in as a time to get to know and to care for ourselves better. These episodes can be deeply painful for us, and I don't want to discount that fact. But we can remind ourselves that it is a season, like winter, and that it will not last. Winter is not the death of the life cycle, she writes, but its crucible. She adds, it's a time for reflection and recuperation, for slow replenishment, for putting your house in order. We do often think of winter as death in nature, that the leaves fall, the birds migrate, the grasses die. There are indicators that life has changed into something else all around. But the something else is more hibernation than death, more resting and completely withering away. Things are happening, but we have to know where to look to see them. They're happening more slowly now, less obviously. An important lesson to remember is that nature teaches us that nothing grows all year round, or at least doesn't grow at the same pace. It comes in spurts and shifts. May writes, even as the leaves are falling, the buds of next year's crop are already in place, waiting to erupt again in spring. Most trees produce their buds in high summer, and the autumn leaf fall reveals them, neat and expectant, protected from the cold by thick scales. We rarely notice them because we think we're seeing the skeleton of a tree, a dead thing, until the sun returns. But look closely, and every single tree is in bud. Whatever we might think of wintering, we can be reminded that our mere survival, not always a simple feat, is a sign of victory, and that we are doing the most vital work we can do. And by framing the experience of wintering, we can talk about it in a way that encapsulates the whole experience rather than just one element of it, that light versus darkness. We can talk about the feeling of being left out in the cold, about being lonely in the wilderness, about being barren or fallow in terms of excitement or joy, and about our sadnesses. May shares from her family's experience of wintering together. We traveled through the dark moments together. I won't pretend it was fun, but it was necessary all the same. We raged and grieved together. We were overcome with fear. We worried and slept it off and didn't sleep and let our timetables turn upside down. We didn't so much as retreat from the world as let it recede from us. We howled out in our pain to our friends and family, and we're surprised that so many rushed in to assist us, sometimes with practical support, but sometimes just by sharing stories of their own. It helped. We felt broken into pieces, but at the same time, never so loved. Whether you are wintering and feeling helped by those you love or by the vastness of the universe, may you find those moments when you feel least lovable, that there is yet a love holding you, and may its kindness and care help hold you through the next moment and the next until you are ready to emerge, rested, renewed, and strengthened in the spring. If you would please rise and lift your voice in song with me for our closing hymn, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Still before my
Jean Harrison Newyar has written, in the lore of ancient China, there's a story of a philosopher who was asked, where is the road called hope? He replied, it does not exist, but as people move upon it, it comes into being. I invite you to continue moving forward on this path, this journey, this road called hope with me.
Please repeat the words on the screen as we extinguish the chalice together. And then please remain standing for our final song, Weave. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of duty, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and filled together again. Invite you all to join hands, or if you can't touch, extend energy to each other, gather each other up in a nice big bubble of happy love.